Hey everyone, hopefully you can hear me and see my screen. You can use the question and answer box to say hello, let me know where you're from. I was going to try to figure out how to pipe music in, but I ran out of time. We're going to get going in about, I'm knocking stuff over, we're going to get going in about 7 minutes. There's only a few of you here, more will join shortly. Again, if you can hear me, let me know if my audio is coming through loud and clear and my screen is showing. You can use the question and answer box to send me a message. Cool. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Patrick. And welcome to today's Hunchly desktop training session. We'll have a little bit of Hunchly mobile sprinkled in there towards the end. My name is Justin Seitz. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. Don't worry if the audio or the video stream for some reason breaks up on you or you have to leave. This session will be recorded, so we will put it up on our YouTube channel. If you just keep an eyeball there, or on our Twitter accounts, you will see the link go out. So we're going to cover everything Hunchly desktop today. And again, these are not scripted. I generally follow kind of the same flow and structure, but this is designed to be interactive. So please use the question and answer box. You can ask questions all day long, and I will stay on here as long as it takes to answer all of them. And I thoroughly enjoy it, and I know it kind of adds a little bit of flavor to every one of these sessions. So with that being said, you should be able to see my screen as well. And what you're looking at is the Hunchly dashboard. So if you've never used Hunchly before, or maybe never heard of it, Hunchly is a two-piece kind of software system. One that we're looking at right now, which is the dashboard. This is where you'll manage your cases and some of your investigative tools. And then the other part lives in your browser. And when I say browser, I mean Chromium-based browser. So that's anything Chromium-based, including Chrome, Chromium, Brave, Microsoft Edge. It does not support Firefox. Okay, so there's just no ability for us to do the same stuff on Firefox as we can with Chrome-based browsers. So the job of the browser piece is just follow you along as you are investigating and capture every page that you browse to. So to get started is actually quite simple. And I have something stuck in my throat. Give me 1 second. I need one hard cough. I won't do it into the mic. Totally solved. All right. So where we're going to start is really training you on how to get a new case going, capture evidence with Hunchly, and that takes about 3 minutes. The rest of it is kind of gravy, extra stuff that's really nice, but not really required. So your 3-minute training kind of starts now. To get going, you want to always have a new case for anything that you're investigating, whether it's a individual, you're writing a news story, or whatever. It helps to keep things organized. If you're in law enforcement, of course, it is really important because it's not uncommon for you to get questioned about whether your cases are separated. Are they separated on disk? Does anyone else have access to the computer? So what we'll do is we'll create a new case called Justin Seitz. We always investigate me for maximum embarrassment factor. And that's it. That's all we need to do in the dashboard. So if you learn nothing else in the dashboard today, just remember to click that button and go to add case, and you'll be off and running. So I'm going to fire up Chrome. Cool. I do not want to restore pages. And up in the Chrome URL bar, or sorry, to the right of the URL bar, you're going to see the Hunchly Chrome extension. If you've just installed Hunchly, you might not see it there. You have to click this little puzzle piece, and then it'll show you the Hunchly extension here, and then you got to click this little blue pin, and that will make it appear. So no pin, no Hunchly, pin, Hunchly. Perfect. So if we click on the Chrome extension itself, there are kind of two different ways that it's going to operate. There is capture mode, which is turned on right now. Everything's lit up. Capture mode disabled. Okay, so Hunchly's gray and angry looking, much like myself. So when you're investigating, you want to turn capture mode on. That's it. Pick the case you're actually working on. And now we're actually ready to start investigating. So a couple clicks in the dashboard, a couple clicks on the Chrome extension, and we are off and running. So I'm going to go to Google. And that's it. Actually, I've just trained you how to do evidence capture with Hunchly. The act of browsing to a new URL triggers the automatic capture. It has preserved this entire web page, timestamped it, hashed it, and stored it on disk without me having to think about it. So if we do a Google search for my name, there's my ugly mug. I'm not the ripped model in the top right there. That's great that he's making his way up next to my ugly mug now. So he tends to make his way into my search results. So the cool thing is that just the act of browsing around, doing my regular work, Hunchly is preserving everything that I'm doing. All of this content, all of the images, all the links, text, everything is preserved in an MHTML file. So this is really nice, particularly when we're dealing with text-heavy content, that we preserve it in MHTML, so it creates this really nice record of what we saw at that time. Now, I have the screen kind of scaled to make GoToWebinar happy. But you can see this is exactly what we saw when we browsed there. This is not loading the content from the internet. This window here is just loading it straight from your hard drive. So if we come back and open this page 6 months from now, it's going to look exactly like this, just like the Wayback Machine. So the nice thing is that Hunchly is taking care of all of that documentation work for you. So if you think about being in a witness box or being on the stand and you're questioning about online evidence that you've submitted, you know, here are the things that you need, right? It's like, what did I see, which is the content, where did I see it, which is the URL, and when did I see it, right, which is the timestamp. Now, you also note we have two timestamps. We have the data capture and then an updated timestamp. And on this page, they're both set to the same thing. That's because Google loads the whole page all at once. So when Google loads a search result page, the whole thing comes back to you all at once. However, when you're scrolling through social media like Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, as you scroll down a page, it's going to trigger more and more captures to occur because content gets loaded into the bottom of the page, right? Lots of other websites, car websites, and other things are like this now too, right? You just scroll down the page, more and more stuff gets loaded. So when that happens, Hunchly is gonna capture and update that timestamp for that capture. Now, it's worth mentioning at this time that Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook have actually presented some unique challenges in the last little while that are worth kind of going off and addressing independently here. And I'm going to demonstrate the issue to you because you will run into this as an investigator. So I'm going to go to Amber Mac's Instagram, and this is a test that you can do yourself. And this also plays into timestamp updating and captures. So we're on Amber's Instagram here, and if we just kind of pause for a minute here. So we have somebody posing with ND mattresses. Okay, so this is the top image in the capture, right? We kind of keep this as in your memory banks. All right, ND mattress. I'm just going to scroll down and have a look at some other content, right? So show more posts from Amber Mac. I'm scrolling down, I'm looking at more stuff. Now, what you would expect is that Hunchly is creating this very nice single capture of this entire page, right? As we scroll down, it's capturing away, doing its thing. Now, the funny thing is if we go and look at our evidence capture in Hunchly, so right here, okay, so that modal popping up being in my evidence, it's technically accurate. There are strategies to work around these types of things. I use notes, which we'll cover shortly, because these modals and login boxes and stuff can crop up all over the place. It's annoying, but accurate. But you can see there's actually a problem brewing behind the scenes here on the right and left. Where are all those images, right? There's no ND mattress right here. They're gone. In fact, all of them are gone until about halfway down the page when they're picked up again, right? And then they're good. And so what's happening, and this will occur on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and this has only been in the last couple of years, and it started with Instagram. Now, the reason why this happens is as we scroll down the page, what Instagram is doing is they're loading more content in, but above where you can't see is they're unloading the content up there. So when Hunchly detects that new content has changed, it's already unloaded the images at the top, loaded the new ones in the bottom, and then Hunchly captures, right? So then it captures all that blank space at the top. So that's a pain in the butt. Now, there's a way to work around this. If you go into your Hunchly dashboard, if only I could click my mouse accurately, in your settings at the very top, page capture sensitivity. It says major changes only. Okay, this is where it's going to continually update the same capture up to 30 minutes. So that's where that updated timestamp comes into play. We're going to switch this to all changes, okay, and hit save. Now, this is not a setting you want to run all day on, But when I have to switch to Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook for any like long period of time, this is what I do. I turn it on, and I'm just going to refresh the page here, and we'll just keep an eye here. So there's only one capture that I have in my dashboard currently. All right, and now I'm going to scroll down, load some more content, and I should have actually kicked the browser to make sure that the settings pushed across. Yeah, I will do that because I think there's a bug in the page capture settings that you just got to kick the browser before it actually wants to do the aggressive capture. So there we go. And this is going to create a ton of captures. It's going to make a bit of a managed mess. But the idea is that as we are capturing, we're not missing anything, right? So you can see it's starting to pump out capture after capture after capture because it's just firing constantly on every little change as content is being loaded and unloaded. So it's a bit of a pain because instead of having one continuous nice HTML file, we instead have a bunch of individual captures. But the nice thing is you're not going to miss any of those photos at the top, right? You're not going to, you see the Andy mattress is there, everything's all good, right? Now we get into some these are getting loaded in the bottom, right? And so the next capture is going to have, you know, more images potentially and more unloaded, right? So it's really nice this way because you can kind of build it up from there. You're not going to miss anything, and it's totally explainable in court. It's not a mystery. You're not doing any weird tricks. It's just the nature of how these websites operate. Now, what I always do then when I'm done like digging through social media, I'll just kick my browser. Again, this is actually muscle memory because there's a bug, which I'm going to have to remind my team about, and I just turn it off. And there's really not a whole lot else you can do here without, you know, creating an extension or something that blocks how those websites operate normally. But I think you have to, you know, as long as you can explain, as long as you can kind of explain how you did it and why, then I think you're usually okay. You know, you just have to know exactly how you're doing these things and why you're doing them so that you can explain it in court. Okay, so is there any questions about any of this so far that I can help to answer? Anything about capture, anything about in the browser so far that you've seen, anything at all? Nothing? Everybody quiet, relax on Friday? Cool. Well, I will keep moving. So we've covered kind of evidence capture, some of the subtle nuances of dealing with modern social media. Now we can talk about some of the benefits of using Hunchly from an investigative standpoint, some of the tools we have for you. The first and my favorite is the selector system. So selectors are little keywords that you can have Hunchly monitor for you as you're browsing around. So when you're doing your browsing and you're kind of like capturing a bunch of information, often names, email addresses, and other things, they can start to kind of pile up and they become difficult for you to keep track of. So what we can do is we can put social media handles in, full names, addresses, phone numbers, whatever you like. And from there, what Hunchly will do is first search backwards through your case, looking for any pages that had those. So it's saying that there are some, and we can see here, this page had both Justin Sites and jms.py on it. Very cool. Now, you can also filter your selectors. You don't have to do all that scrolling. But the really useful thing here is that why that's actually handy is if I've been investigating a case for a few weeks, I might discover an email address today that I didn't know was important yesterday or the day before. So what'll happen is when I punch that in today, Hunchly will search backwards, and then we will be able to get alerted to the fact that, hey, that email address that you punched in today, you actually saw this a couple days ago. You just didn't know that it was important at that time. So I find this particularly useful when you're working on long running cases, just being able to have that search running backwards to tell you if you've already encountered it. Now, the other nice thing is everywhere I browse from this point forward, Hunchly is going to automatically look for Justin Sites and jms.py in both the content and the underlying source code, and will track hits for us. So if I'm fatigued and my brain doesn't pick up that there was an important piece of information on a page, Hunchly's got my back. Before we jump into the browser, Another thing people like using is this highlight selectors. You can turn it on, which will highlight the selector hits on the page for you. You'll see this shortly. If you're in law enforcement, you're going to want to use on remove before storing. Otherwise, this on setting will store the highlighting in your actual evidence, which obviously you probably don't want. Okay, so let's just fire up the browser again, sorry. Go back to our search result page. Okay, cool. So very obvious where selector hits are here, but this is a total lifesaver when you are working on something complex or reviewing a ton of text. It calls your attention to the fact that, hey, here's a piece of information that you think is important. Now, the other cool thing is, as I said, while I'm moving around doing my thing, go to the Bellingcat page. Hunchly is again tracking hits as I go. There's some highlighting that pops up here. And you can also, if you don't want to use the highlighting, you can keep an eyeball for a little red badge to appear. You can see it's now appeared up here in the Chrome extension. And we can see our selector hits in here as well. Okay, so they're incredibly useful. I use them all the time. I build up piles of selectors, particularly on complex cases. And again, you can see the hit count's gone up. It's tracking this for us, and we don't have to think about it. It's just happening automatically. One other thing is if you're investigating groups of people, for example, put the entire group of people in. So Esme is my cat. Because what you can do is start to filter like this and say, show me any pages where both Esme sites and Justin sites were present. So for example, if they were co-directors of a company, or maybe they're both members of an organization and they're chatting at each other on social media, for example. So you can kind of actually do some of that kind of more analytical work by mixing selectors like that. All right, cool. And we have a question. How do you bypass a login on Instagram? Yeah, unfortunately, you really can't. You just, you have to get an account. So there's no bypassing any of that. It's most of these platforms now, it's kind of a crapshoot whether how far they'll let you scroll before they make you log in. But no bypasses that I'm aware of, and no way to get around it. No worries. You're very welcome. All right, I'm going to have a quick sip, and then we will carry on. All right, great. No more questions. Let's move on to tags. So again, if you're in law enforcement, this is probably something to just at least pay a bit of attention to. Tags are a way for you to keep your cases organized and your materials organized. This is particularly useful, not just in law enforcement, journalists too. When you're working on a complex case, having tags will allow you to produce disclosure packages with much less friction. So it won't be a big nightmare to dig through 1,000 pages. You'll be organized. You'll be able to disclose only what's required, and it'll be kind of in a way that's structured for you. Later on, you'll see too, we can do exports just based on tags. So we can actually kick out PDFs and web pages just based on how they're tagged. So how to actually use them is exactly like any other product that has tags or categories. We can define them broadly, like social media. So this is one I would often use, where there's something interesting on social media. But you could get more specific. So if, for example, I'm working like a fraud case and it's somebody who's absconded with a bunch of money, I might have like, like high price assets. So things like boats, cars, or whatever. So as I'm out browsing around doing my thing, as I'm encountering information, so let's just pick another page here. We'll go to LinkedIn. As I'm encountering pages and I kind of have it in the back of my mind that I have those tags, I can go into the browser here. I can come into tags. I can say this is social media. Now, the other thing that's really nice is that you can also do this retroactively. So if, for example, you are on, some other page, or like here, I should have tagged this with social media, you can always retroactively tag a page from here. Okay? You can use multiple tags on a page if you want to. And when you're doing some of your case review work, you can actually mix and match tags with selectors to do more analytical work. So you can say, show me all the social media posts that contained Justin sites, right? So that will filter down based both on tag and selector hits. So it does help you kind of when you're report writing, when you're preparing for testimony, all that stuff, to kind of just start asking questions of your case. And It will save a lot of time later on, particularly if you work complex cases. It will save you a ton of time later on to have things tagged and filed away properly. All right. There's one more kind of super tag that I'll also use frequently, which is our, not everybody uses this, but right beside our case dropdown right here, there's this mark, page is important, get a little gold star. So what this does is, number one, you can see a little gold star, so this will be highlighted as important, kind of calls it out to you, or if you are sending this case to another colleague and they import it into Hunchly, they can see that, or they can just hit this button. That will filter and only show the important pages. So I use it frequently, particularly if I'm working with other investigators, because when they'll send me their case and I import it, this is the first button I hit, is just show me the important pages right out of the gate. I want to see what's up. Okay? Any questions about any of that so far? Nothing? All right, cool. Also, this little clock right here, this is actually a neat little tool. Most people, I don't show this in demos most of the time, but what this will do is, for example, this is my LinkedIn page. If you click the clock icon and then click the Google, my cat's saying hi. This will search the Google cache for it, or the Wayback Machine. You can click that. It'll do it for you automatically, so it doesn't have that archived, because I don't think LinkedIn allows the crawling. So this is really handy. But the other thing too is that if I've captured that LinkedIn link in a different case, it will show up here in other cases. So it's kind of a nice little like historical view on a URL. All right, my cat's really singing the song of her people right now. I'm not sure why, but she's probably going to throw up. That's my guess, right? And it's going to get recorded. So everybody just mentally prepare for that. All right, cool. I don't see any questions. Let's move on to notes. I use these all the time, like constantly. So definitely I recommend developing a bit of muscle memory around notes. I'm just going to close some tabs here. Cool. So notes are really simple. They're just like taking notes. You right click on a page. In the Hunchly 2 menu, you say take note. This will pop this little box open where I can say Justin's LinkedIn profile. This is usually how I take notes. Hit save. Now what's going to happen is Hunchly's going to take a screenshot of the viewable area in the browser. It's going to take a regular content capture like normal and store your text along with it. So what this gives me is this nice timeline as I'm investigating and moving along through my investigation. As I discover stuff, I'm always going to kind of constantly be taking notes as we go and be like, okay, that was his LinkedIn. Here's, you know, Justin's Twitter profile. Perfect. Cool. And so this really does help me a lot when I'm coming back to do case review, or what I call like the Friday to Monday problem, which is like I go play volleyball in a tournament all weekend, come back Monday, and I have no idea what I was working on Friday. So I'll jump into my notes, quickly scroll through, and I can visually and I can see what I was writing for notes, and a bit of a timeline. So it's really, really useful. I can export them to PDF if I want by using the export button here. So again, really useful feature. It helps kind of create your own contextual breadcrumb trail internally inside of Hunchly as you're working through an investigation. And it is also the primary way currently that you can get content into Hunchly reports. So our report building capabilities are actually quite limited. We are on the cusp of having our report builder released. It is oh so close. But for now, if you plan on using Hunchly to build little tiny reports or interim reports, notes are the way you're going to get content into those reports. Okay. Now, the other thing too is if you ever forget to take a note, you guessed it, you can go back into your page review screen here, and you can take a note from here. All right. Any questions about notes? Okay. And they're always linked back to a full content capture. They're never just a screenshot on their own. All right, cool. Well, let's talk about images then. So Hunchly handles images in a few different ways. The first thing is when you're browsing around doing your thing, Hunchly actually extracts every image off of every page, hashes it, and stores it in a separate folder named photos here. I should say photos, not images. But here you can see there's a ton of images that as we were browsing. Now, this can be useful if you have image software that you can load them all into. If you're in law enforcement and you do hash-based searches, the files are named by hash. And sometimes, honestly, there's been times where I've just like found interesting stuff lurking around in images that Hunchly was able to pick out that I just didn't see while I was out browsing and doing my investigative work. Now, as part of this process, we're also examining the images for EXIF metadata. So if you're not familiar with EXIF metadata, it is simply information that is invisibly stamped into images, so you don't visually see it, but it describes the image itself. And inside of that information, if we click this blue badge, sometimes we can see things that might be useful in our investigation, like the date and time of when the image was taken, when it was taken by the camera. Allegedly, people can modify this information, so you have to kind of corroborate it. It was taken with a BlackBerry. I was the last known human on Earth with a BlackBerry in 2015. But this is really actually quite useful because EXIF metadata is not always present everywhere, but when you do find it, it can be quite interesting. And if you're ever looking for a good test site to make sure it's working, go to arstechnica.com. Fantastic outlet for tech and gaming news and all kinds of nerdy stuff. But ours has a ton of metadata. Oh man, the Steam Deck, this looks so great. All right, anyway, if we just wait for a second here, unless they're gonna make liars out of me today, which is totally possible, but usually their front page is absolutely packed with metadata. And again, maybe they are totally, maybe because I've been showing this off in every demo. Oh no, it's actually still pulling the page down because it's quite large. Got it. There we go. So Ars Technica, for whatever reason, they have a ton of metadata in their stuff. So anything from stock photography that you can go in and see, like this was taken with a Nikon camera. Sometimes people take pictures, and I've seen all kinds of stuff like location information stamped into them, and yeah, crazy stuff. So ours is a great place to go test this out. And of course, if you do dark web work, this can be really interesting because sometimes people running hidden services, they'll miss that they need to strip out metadata before they upload photographs if you have some amateurs. So they can make some operational security mistakes, which you can capitalize on. Now, the other thing you can do with images is you can tag them or caption them. So what you can do is as you're browsing around, let's not use my ugly mug, let's use something else here. We'll go here. And again, images are a funny beast because sometimes you'll right click on what you think is an image, but it's not. In this case, it is an image. For example, if you right click on Instagram, they have a transparent pixel layer over top and it doesn't look like an image, so you have to use a note. But here, I'm going to caption that book cover, hit add caption to image, and just say BHP book cover. Cool. This will pull that picture out separately. It's scaled here. Include the caption that we put under it. So again, particularly in fraud cases or like white collar stuff, when people are like running around with the assets they've stolen, it's great to build a little gallery. I know people who have used it when, like for missing persons, for example, to build posters. They can build a little gallery of all the pictures they have of somebody quite quickly. So yeah, it has a ton of different uses depending on the work that you do. I use it, again, sometimes just to call out interesting pictures that I want to use in my report, or particularly with assets as well. All right, any questions about images, EXIF metadata, captioning images? Anything? Nothing. I'll take a quick pause here. All right, cool. Let's talk about attachments. So our attachments are anything that are not web pages that Hunchly can download on their own. Now, this does not include video. We do not extract video on our own, but certainly go through our YouTube channel. I'll give you some strategies there, or I'll give you a link at some point during the session. But when you're thinking attachments, think external files of some kind that you want to get into your Hunchly case. So the first way that you can add them is you can click this add button. You can pick a file from your hard drive, maybe a source or a witness or somebody has passed something to you and you want to pull it into your case. So here we have the file, it's made a copy of it, we have a hash of it, it tells you that it was added manually. And if you click on it, it's worth kind of paying attention to this warning, because if this is malware or a backdoor document or something, clicking OK is going to open it. So that's important to note. This instead is just me bottle feeding a very tiny and sickly baby raccoon. It's my thumb. She was rehabilitated and released. Now the other cool thing is that you can add notes to this. So you can just say like, huge picture of raccoon, baby. All right. Nice. Now, the other thing and a setting I always use is the automatically attach downloads. So right here, attach downloads, I'm going to turn this on. And what this will allow me to do, and Chrome, again, I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but for some reason I've had some weird issues with Chrome downloading Word documents. But when we download a file that is not a web page, see that? Just like doesn't want to download them sometimes. It's really weird. And then sometimes the download just doesn't complete. What it does is it automatically brings it into your case. So if all went well and Chrome's not eating itself on that download, we should see, and it did. I'm just going to punt the browser. This is a really weird, and it's only, I found, and I don't know if it's like a security thing or what, but like with Office documents and stuff, clicking on them sometimes, they just don't want to download. Really weird. See, finally works, but sometimes they don't complete actually. Like they don't make it down to disk. That one did. So anyway, I'll have to file a bug with them and my team, I guess. I just noticed this in the last month. So either way, that file's downloaded. Hunchly detects the download, pulls it in, and now you've got a copy of that file on your hard drive. PDFs will show up here as well. Okay. Now this is where it's worth mentioning that you can also get external files off of mobile devices into your Hunchly desktop by getting victims, witnesses, or even yourself to use the free Hunchly mobile app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how that works, because it is definitely worth understanding. Now, where did that window go? Right there. Perfect. So I have gorilla hands. I'm going to do my best to not make a mess of this. I'm going to open the Hunchly app. Okay, so this is what Hunchly mobile looks like. It is not a web preservation tool. It is like a little Rubbermaid container that you can stick stuff into and pull off of a phone without having to do a forensic acquisition, and also allow you to pull it into your Hunchly case. So I'm going to create a new case. I'm going to say Justin Sites Mobile. Add case. Cool. Now I'm going to add a new case file. So in Hunchly, you can do this through the share menu, and when you're in your Photos app, or I can do it from here. So I'm going to tap Add a File. I'm going to add a photo. I have a screenshot. I'm going to add that. I can add a note. Screenshot of Google. Go back, and I'm going to save that file to the case. So now that file's been copied into this Hunchly case. It's been hashed. Everything's been stored, and it is structured in a way that, as you'll see shortly, is useful both directly to police or attorneys, or to you as a Hunchly user. So now I'm going to do in the hamburger menu in the top right-hand side, I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to go Export Justin Sites Mobile. I'm going to airdrop it to me. Cool. I am going to switch back to here. Okay, so I just airdropped the mobile case to my laptop where this virtual machine is running. I'm going to pull it in. Okay, and I'm just going to open this first just to show you real quick, because we'll get into exports later. But there's actually an HTML report in here. So if you have somebody who's sending something to you as an investigator or as an attorney, this report is handy. You can open it in Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome. Okay, you've got a case created and when the export was created. So there's timestamps of when the investigator, victim, or witness created this export. You have a hash of the file, where it came from, the Hunchly mobile app, and the file itself is right here. And because the person can take a note, you can encourage them to add context so that you are not trying to scroll through 400 email attachments, trying to piece together threats or stalking or, victim information. So this is really, really handy. And we also have a website called Digital Evidence Guide, which is designed for victims and witnesses and legal experts, law enforcement. It's designed to tell victims, witnesses, and other people to get the guidance, make sure it's safe, get guidance for law enforcement and attorneys, but it will kind of tell you how you can use Hunchly Desktop and Hunchly Mobile for free, both of them for free, to build evidence packages, so that it's less of a nightmare for all involved. All right, so the other cool thing is now that I have that, I can import that mobile case. I can go import case, and I go add to existing case. I'm going to add it to the Justin Sites case. That's the zip file we want. Okay, import, cool. And now we've got this imported into our case, screenshot of Google. I can look at it, off we go. All right, so that's attachments. A few different ways of handling them. The mobile app is literally designed for being able to produce attachments, both just as evidence itself and to pull back into Hunchly Desktop. And again, if you haven't ever saw the OSINT Combine post on, I want to go OSINT Combine social media video download. Let's see if I got the right one. Yeah, this one. Perfect. So I'll send this in the chat. This is great because what this post will teach you is how to download videos without social media tools, or without any tools. And so what this will do too is that when you're downloading files in this manner, when Chrome downloads it, Hunchly should pick it up and store it for you. All right. Yes, the website is digital. Hold on, let me go back there. Digital Evidence Guide. That's it. And we're not trying to sell you anything. It's just free. It's just basically a guide on how to use our stuff for free. Cool. Awesome. All right, we have a great question here. Will all pictures of EXIF automatically be captured by Hunchly? So it's a great question, Lucas. No. So we use a very lightweight EXIF metadata extraction tool, or library, I should say. And so it's not as thorough as, say, Phil Harvey's EXIF tool. And we do that for speed. So we would not pick up every possible EXIF metadata type, but that's where having that photos folder, you could actually upload it to a tool, even like Giro, so getgiro.org. Giro is a virtual machine that is built for photo analysis. So what you could do is actually upload your Hunchly photos, all of them directly to it. And it's got a much more thorough set of tooling around EXIF extraction and a whole bunch of other tools to analyze images. So hopefully that helps to answer that question for you. All right. Now the question here, Justin, you said all of this information is saved to your hard drive. Are you able to save it to a portable drive instead of your computer hard drive? Yes, you are. In fact, we have in our knowledge base at support.hunch.ly, which I will send a link to all, we actually have migrating data folder, changing Hunchly's data folder. So this article here, I will put the link for you as well, or I'll put it in chat, sorry. So this article will tell you how you can set it up to point where Hunchly stores this information. By default, it is your hard drive, but we have customers that use network attached storage, USB devices, a whole bunch of other things. The one word of caution I will give you when using external storage for Hunchly data is you need to have a pretty fast computer and you need to have fast storage. And it needs to be over a fast connection like USB 3 because Hunchly is very disk intense. So it's writing to disk a lot and in large amounts. So just be aware that if you start to see performance problems, I would just use your normal hard drive and then export every day to your backup USB if you can. All right, so hopefully that helps to answer that question. But yes, our knowledge base has a ton of stuff in it, all kinds of wild and wonderful information, including an awesome getting started section. All right, any other questions before I continue? It doesn't look like it. Cool, let's talk about searches. So this searches panel is a kind of convenience panel that's telling you what you search for and where you search for it. So this is looking at all the major search engines and social media websites, and it's just looking at what keywords you're running through them So you can kind of come in and take a look at it. Now, where I personally find this useful is when I kind of hit investigator's block, like I don't know what should I look at next, or you get kind of stuck. The first thing I always notice about me, no matter how hard I try not to do this, is that I do all of my searches in Google, right? So like that's right away, that's an issue because it's search bias. You're looking through only one lens at search results. So this is a good reminder for me to go over to Yandex and run the same searches because Yandex doesn't have the same algorithm as Google when scoring results, right? So if I type custom sites into Yandex, the first result is not my LinkedIn profile. It is a pirated copy of one of my books. So that link actually wasn't even present in the Google search results that I saw. So right away, this has actually exposed me to more information that I didn't have just by switching search engines, running the same keyword in a different search engine. So this can be really useful. It can be just kind of a useful background tool that I will use whenever I get stuck. People have a bunch of different ways that they use this. But yeah, just a convenient little thing to help, help you get out of investigator block, really. All right, cool. No questions I see, so I'll just move on to our data tab. So what the data tab does is bring forward little pieces of information that we're able to extract from web pages. So what we're doing is while you're browsing around, we're actually using regular expressions to look for little things like email addresses and Google Analytics codes and other things. And then we're bringing them forward to you here in your dashboard so that you can plug them into other tools or search for them on public www.com or whatever. So yeah, it's really just about kind of bringing leads and allowing you to kind of take this information out to other tools. It's worth noting that Spiderfoot HX, the cloud version of the tool, has an importer for Hunchly data export. So you can export your Hunchly data and Spiderfoot will import it and run scans based on it. So same thing, I particularly like the email address one. I like going through and just seeing what kind of stuff I've encountered while I'm out browsing. Sometimes you'll find, interesting stuff. Now, if you ever find an email address or find something that you're like, hey, that's really cool, and I want to see what this is all about, you can click this blue button here. It will apply that as a as a filter. Use your words, Justin. It will be applied as a filter here in the history view. So it's showing you only the pages that contain that Google Analytics code. Okay, so that little data tab is quite useful. I jump in there quite a bit back and forth just to see what's been brought out, see if there's anything of use. And again, sometimes I'll also just use that in conjunction with our full text search up here, which is also quite useful. Okay, cool. And yes, a quick question just came in. I am recording this, so don't worry if you missed the beginning or you have to leave early. We will post the recording to our YouTube channel, the Hunchly YouTube channel, and both my account and the Hunchly Twitter account. So just keep an eye out if you miss them. Awesome. Cool. Well, we got about 15 minutes left, so we're going to now talk about how we can get information out of Hunchly, since we've covered all the ways of getting information into Hunchly. So by clicking on this Export tab, this is where we can start to begin thinking about building exports, reports, producing evidence packages. So the first and most important button here is this Export Case button. I recommend you do this frequently. Once you delete a case, there's no bringing it back. So Export Case will take all of your information, every piece of data that you have, bundle it all up into a zip file that you can now, so here's a mobile one and here's our desktop one now over here. So now what we can do is we can back that case export up on our file server. We can store it somewhere. We can do whatever we want with it, but it's important to make backups frequently and not just like let your Hunchly stuff get backed up. I mean, like export your cases and get some muscle memory around that. Because we take emails probably once a week of somebody saying, is there a way to recover Hunchly data if I don't have it anymore? No, there's nothing we can do from the product side. And in fact, from a European regulation perspective, once you delete something in Hunchly, it has to be deleted. So it's really, that stuff is just one of those things. So enough rambling. What do we actually have in this folder? So if you open it up and go extract all, in Windows, in Mac, you can just double click it. We'll just let it get expanded here. A little Jeopardy music, maybe. There we go. Perfect. So everything from your case is in here. It's fairly well labeled. Now, if you do your own data processing, you use an e-discovery platform or whatever, there is data here in CSV format and JSON if you need to build some importers or something so that your e-discovery system picks it up, or your case management system. You can poke around in that case data folder. Otherwise, this report is actually quite useful. So we can open it up in Chrome, and it'll look pretty familiar because we looked at the mobile version, but this is like a little mini dashboard. So if you need to send your case to a Crown attorney, a district attorney, or a prosecutor, or whatever, who doesn't have Hunchly, they can actually just open this report in Google Chrome, and they can kind of scroll through your case and get a sense of what you were looking at without having Hunchly installed. Now, you'll note that this looks pretty good. This is not loading anything off the internet. In fact, what I can do is I can completely disconnect the internet. Just show you here. Internet's disconnected. I always got to jump on Cactus. I'll also note that my high score was 70, and then I hit 90 a couple of weeks ago. So that's really important. It was a milestone. So there's no internet connection here, but this content is being loaded just fine. So this does mean that you can do secure evidence review if you need to, if you're in an environment that requires it. So that's really handy. Let me just turn the internet back on here. Cool. So the other cool thing is we can import that case at any point in the future. So if we want to import that entire case back in, we can just go to import case, import it back in, merge it with an existing case, do whatever you need to do, okay? And it will bring everything back for you. So this is particularly useful for those of you in law enforcement or private investigations, because as you know, you investigate something today, charges could even be delayed tomorrow, but court's not going to be for 6 months or 18 months or, you know, who knows. So it's important to be able to do that. And you don't want to keep all these cases cluttered about. Once you're done with a case, or at least it's put on hold temporarily, you can click these 3 dots and you can just delete it, get rid of it. And that will remove it from Hunchly, and then it's not kind of clogging up your system. And then you can import it back in later from that zip file. All right. Cool. Any questions about full case export? Yes, Philip. Indeed, that was a humble brag. I did hit 90 on Dinosaur Cactus Jump. You're right. No questions on exports? Cool. All right. Well, let's talk about some other exports that we can do. So one of the most frequent things that folks have to do is export pages themselves. So if you need to do it in bulk, again, tags will save you, because you can go into page export here by clicking this gold button, yellow, gold, whatever. We can export pages based on tags. So if I just want the social media pages, I can hit OK. And that's going to produce PDFs and MHTML files of just the pages that I tagged as social media. Okay, so it will make your life a lot easier and keeps things a bit more organized. Now, if you ever need to just pump a single page out, or maybe they're not really categorized pages, or you captured something, you just want to send it quickly to a colleague, you can just select pages here like that in your history view, and you can say page export right here, this green button. Cool. I'm going to export it to my desktop. Cool. I'll just show you what this looks like. All right, so we've got social media there, and we've got some other pages here that we exported. Now, in the PDF, you get a bit of metadata at the top telling you the URL, date, time, hash, all of that. But it's a PDF, and PDF and PDF and HTML are not actually interchangeable formats. That's why sometimes when you save a web page, it looks like garbage. And so that's why we always try to encourage people to produce the HTML files as well, because you can open them in Google Chrome and they will be much cleaner. It's not always guaranteed to be perfect, but this is a much more accurate representation of what we saw, right? And it is not going to be kind of like a messy overlaid bit of craziness. Now, the other thing is that if you run into problems where you see issues in the HTML capture, you can file those bugs with us, and we'll file those bugs with Google, with their development team. So we file bugs with them so that they can fix capture and rendering issues. And they have done that for us in a few instances where there was some stuff that was just not being captured by their engine correctly. So all very useful little export techniques. okay? You can also export from within here. So if you just want to kick a quick PDF out, up here in the top right, this export button will just kick this one page out. All right, I'm going to take a quick pause, wait for any questions, and then we're going to cover reports, and then we are done, and then you can go and enjoy your weekend. So let me just have a sip of coffee real quick. All right, the home stretch. Report Builder. So our Report Builder is a very simple drag and drop interface designed to build very simple reports. It is not a ton of fun to use. I'll be straight up with you. So if you're a potentially new Hunchly customer, make sure you spend some time in the Report Builder if reporting is important to you, because our Report Builder needed a bunch of work, and it's got almost a year and a half now of work put into it. So it's going to look much different than this, hopefully very soon. So in the meantime, what we're left with is this very simple interface. And I'm going to demonstrate how I use it, which is how I designed it, which is why it's awful. But this is how I use it. So I'll put in a report title, and I just incite case. Can't even spell my own name. And the reports are broken out into sections. So if you feel, really frisky, you can start out with an executive summary here. I normally don't. You can drop a text paragraph in, put some text in, so like sweet exec summary here. All right, save that text. Cool. Here's what I really do normally. I put in a section and I just name it evidence. And then what I do is I drop all my notes. You can grab this all notes option, or one at a time if you want to grab them. And I drop it in, and I grab all of my caption images. And then I leave it set to docx, and I hit export. And the reason for that is I've been using a reporting template of my own design for a number of years. So what I'll do is I'll export the Hunchly report to docx. I'll open the Hunchly report on the left. I'll open my tried and tested report template on the right, and I'll just grab content and stuff from my Hunchly report and drop it into my regular report template. So if you're going to build a quick interim report or something small and short and sweet here, and you want to send it to somebody, you can produce a PDF, okay? And it's very simple to do short and simple little reports, no problem at all. But once you start getting into longer, more complex, multi-section, multi-text reports, this report building interface falls down in a blaze of glory very quickly. So that's kind of how I use it, how I recommend using it. But I know my customers, and there's a ton of customers on here right now. I can recognize most of a ton of you right now. They know they've been eagerly waiting our new revamped report builder, and it is going very well. So hang in there, it's coming. But definitely this report builder can be a tad frustrating to use at times. All right, so that really concludes all of the core, fundamental, important things in Hunchly. There's some smaller stuff in the settings, and then there's some more complex stuff you can do with it in data forwarding, which I will cover next week in my webinar next week, where we will cover how we can do automatic YouTube video downloads, extract video frames from those downloads, and detect objects in the video frames, all from just browsing in Hunchly. So that will be next week. It's a little wilder and crazier. And then the week after that, we'll do another Hunchly desktop training session. All right. So I see one question. If there are any other questions that you have, OSINT, nature of the universe, meaning of life, whatever it may be, feel free to definitely ask away now. So the question here is, so HTML export is normally cleaner than PDF. In my experience, Bruce, yes. It's not always 100% guaranteed that you're going to get a perfect, pristine MHTML capture either, just the nature of the web. But in my experience and in our customers' experience, the MHTML is much cleaner than the PDF. Cool. All right, another question. Can you share your report template? No, I do not share my reporting templates. I get asked that a lot, actually, but no, I don't. It's something of my own design, and everybody should come up with their own. Really, it's executive summary, evidence, blow by blow, conclusion. That's really the main thing, and the rest of it is your job as the author to fill that out and make the report strong. But yeah, sorry, I don't have one to share. Cool, no problem, no problem. Awesome, awesome. Thank you. All right, what do we have? Question here. I've found that some partners aren't very tech savvy. HTML output will work really well for them. Yeah, so Phil, definitely. You know, the funny thing is with MHTML is because everybody's so used to PDF, they're a little put off by it actually. They're kind of like, ooh, I don't know, you know, is there special software? And it's like, well, yes and no. Special software in the sense that you need the world's most popular web browser to view MHTML files. Firefox actually won't view them by default natively. So you need something that's Chromium based, but I mean, Microsoft Edge is installed in every modern Windows machine, and Chrome is free. So, you know, that's a totally low friction barrier, right, for people. So I'm really trying to lead the charge on getting away from just people being locked into PDFs, because it's been kind of up here in Canada too. That's been like the thing most people push for is, you know, get things in PDF, and it's not wrong. It's just I think that there's a slightly better format in statistically higher cases. All right, cool. Can you capture Tor browser sessions? Well, you can't capture Tor browser sessions, but what you can do is hook Hunchly up to Chrome via the dark web. So let me show you how to do that real quick. So how you do this is actually quite simple. This is a low security setup, by the way. We have a guide available, or we did. We're reworking it, but we can definitely. There's lots of guides on how to set up anonymous browsing VMs. But if you want a quick and dirty way, you can fire up a Tor browser. All right. So we'll let that start. Do your thing. Come on. Any day now. Let me find a hidden service here. Let's find something like Facebook onion address. Is Tor up and running in that VM yet? Yes, it is. All right, cool. So don't close it. Just minimize it. Now, what happens when you start Tor browser, it actually opens a little listening port. And so what we can do is we can actually connect Chrome into that port and send all of the Chrome traffic over Tor. So I have a special shortcut to do this called Chrome Tor. The command line of this shortcut is right here. I'm going to put it into the chat. This is what if you copy and paste that into your target location, or very close to your target location like this, what this is telling it to do is just connect through the local Tor listener. All right, and now I'm just going to grab an onion address here. All right, top 9 best .onions. ProPublica has a hidden service. Sweet. Let's go check ProPublica out on the dark web. All right, did that have my location in it? My location is pretty easy to find. All right, so normally we should not be able to browse to a .onion. Normally my demos blow up too, so let's wait for that to happen. Hey, so cool, we're browsing the dark web, just like that, couple of mouse clicks. And naturally, Hunchly is along for the ride because the dark web looks like any other website to Hunchly, right? So it's everything here it sees is just like normal, like a normal website. As you're browsing, it's going to capture the onion address. I interrupted the page capture there. Sorry, I really shouldn't have done that. Whoops. Holy, look at the errant clicking that. There we go. Did I actually let you capture this time? Yes, there. So you can see, here's ProPublica dark web URL right here. It's an onion address. Okay? Works just like normal. And the cool thing is it's going to do EXIF metadata extraction stuff for you too as you browse around the dark web. Now, if you are doing sophisticated adversary research, I would be careful doing this method. You're probably going to want to really think more carefully about OPSEC, how Hunchly might fit into that picture, how Chrome, you know, all that stuff, because you're not going to look like a regular Tor browser to a sophisticated hidden service operator. So just be aware of that, but I'm not an operational security expert. So there are other people who are. So definitely it's worth, thinking about that. But yeah, Hunchly is totally 100% dark web friendly. And we also have, we even have a mailing list. Let me open the right browser now. So I can go to hunch.ly. This is our web page, and all the way at the bottom, dark web mailing list right here. To get a free dark web investigation guide as well. Look at that. So dark web mailing list is right here. It's actually down right now. So our distributed dark web scanner is run into some technical issues that we've been working on the last couple of days. But what this will do is send you out an email once a day with new hidden services that we've discovered. And don't fret, in the emails themselves, there's an archive link. If you click it, it takes you to the archive in Dropbox that has all of the spreadsheets we've ever sent out that have a history of all of the hidden services that we found. So you can literally go pouring through this Dropbox folder of spreadsheet after spreadsheet. So yeah, Hunchly is very dark web friendly, and we've done tons of work around dark web, and yeah, so feel free to shoot us any questions you have or anything related to that as well. All right, but no, Hunchly will not install in Tor browser because Tor browser is based on Firefox, sadly. Not sadly, it's totally cool. I meant more like it just won't directly integrate. All right, top of the hour, we nailed it to 60 minutes. Unless anyone else has some questions, I will bounce, and I will allow all of you to get on with your weekend as well. Thank you so much for showing up today. I really appreciate it. And those of you that keep showing up like every week, I really appreciate it. It's really nice and comforting to see the same names coming back all the time. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to my team. The email is support@hunch.ly, and if you need to get a hold of me, it's justin@hunch.ly. Thank you so much. Have yourself a great weekend. Stay safe, and I will chat with a lot of you next week. All right, bye-bye.